proceed with that?
I'm going to proceed without my opening statement. I just want to move things along. I'll just do a closing statement and be done, if that's acceptable.
You're not going to call any of your witnesses?
No, I'm going to call witnesses.
Okay.
But just dispose of my opening statement, if that's all right.
Okay.
We're going to call Sergeant Sean McGuire off. Let me fetch him.
Fetch him.
Sergeant McGuire? Please have a seat, sir. Has he been sworn, sir?
No, sir.
You were sworn this morning?
He wasn't
No,
here.
he wasn't.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, could you please state your name for the record?
Sean McGuire.
And you are an employee at the Volusia County Sheriff's Office,
Yes, sir.
and you hold the rank of sergeant with that agency.
Yes, sir.
You recall an incident where then Deputy Travis Deane was given a letter of reprimand in February of 2012 about an incident that occurred at a place called Spring Hill.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you ever seen Mr. Deane's or Deputy Deane's letter of reprimand?
Yeah, I think so, yes, sir.
Let me present this to you, sir. Do you have this, Ms. Jones?
Yes.
This is the letter of reprimand that Mr. Deane received for that alleged offense in Spring Hill in February of 2012. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Now, is your understanding that Mr. Deane was accused of violating policy with respect to the disposition of a suspect's property by taking that property to evidence rather than taking it to the jail?
Yes, sir.
And do you understand that he was accused of doing that because the suspect was belligerent or mouthy?
Yes, sir.
Did you order Deputy Deane to take that suspect's property to evidence rather than to the jail?
Yes, sir. There's my statement on that.
And did you tell that to the investigators or the persons looking into this disciplinary situation back in 2012?
When Travis told me he got this, I immediately called the lieutenant and told him that was my call.
Are you surprised, sir, that this letter of reprimand was rescinded for Deputy Deane?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, at the time you were a sergeant, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you maintain that rank now,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
As a sergeant, was your expectations that your subordinates would follow your orders unless those orders were unlawful?
Yes, sir.
And you expected him to follow this order to take that suspect's property to evidence rather than to jail because it wasn't unlawful, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's talk about the issue that's, I guess, more contemporaneous to current time. There was a point in time where Deputy Deane came to you, and I believe it was November of 2012, asking your advice with respect to Stephen DeHutt and Kelly Capps. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was this person over the telephone or in person?
He called me on the phone.
Okay. And did Deputy Deane tell you that he believed there may be a conflict of interest that he wanted to discuss with you?
Yes, sir.
You used those words?
Yeah, at least so. Yes, sir.
And what did he tell you was the potential conflict of interest, sir?
Just that he was friends with her.
Okay, friends with Kelly Capps?
Yes.
Okay. Did he describe the relationship any more detail than that?
No, I mean, I asked him a few questions about what type of friendship they had, and it just, from what our conversation was, they were just friends through the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I had gotten out of it.
Okay. Now, you didn't make any notes of that conversation, did you?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, at any point during that conversation with Deputy Deane, any conversation with him prior to Stephen DeHutt being arrested, did you come under the impression that Kelly Capps and Stephen DeHutt were living together at the time of the alleged domestic violence?
I thought they were, by just our conversation.
With your conversation with Deputy Deane?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can find first. I believe the board members already have a copy of the charging affidavit dealing with Stephen DeHutt's arrest. That sound familiar? Let me see if, I'll go ahead.
I did not introduce that.
I did not? Okay. This is, for purposes of the record, the charging affidavit dealing with Stephen DeHutt's arrest. And did I give away my only copy? Do you have a copy, Ms. Jones? Okay, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. That's okay. Does this appear to be, sir, the charging affidavit that Deputy Deane completed with respect to the allegations against Stephen DeHutt?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, he gave you this document, I believe, for you to deliver to the deputies that are actually going to make the arrest. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And and I can't help looking at this. Is there your signature anywhere on this document?
I don't know. It doesn't show on this, but I'm pretty sure I notarized it that day.
Okay. Now, would you have notarized it before the arrest or after the arrest?
Yeah, before.
Okay. And so you would have an opportunity to review this and, well, notarize it before Mr. DeHutt was taken into custody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, can I draw your attention, please, to the narrative portion of this?
The affidavit or the report?
I think they're cut and paste,
Okay.
just on the incident report itself.
Okay.
Starting see that paragraph where it begins, where it says which DeHutt punched several holes in the wall. Do you see the beginning of that sentence?
Yes.
Okay, reading on it says, and tell me if I misstate this. It's blanked out, we know that to be Ms. Capps. Stated she and DeHutt had been at his residence, 1878 Holly Boulevard, DeLand, and he had departed the residence after the argument. Ms. Capps stated that she had initially contacted Deputy Deane to attempt to locate a ride home for the residents, but she had been given a ride. Now, based upon that, the fact that two different residences are described here and for Mr. DeHutt and Ms. Capps, would you agree with me that you knew at the time, before Mr. DeHutt was arrested, that these two people, Ms. Capps and Mr. DeHutt, were not cohabitants of the single house?
Yes, from this, I would, yes, sir.
Okay. So, even though you may have gleaned from your conversation with Mr. Deane that they cohabitated, that belief should have been dismissed, if you will, by your reading of this charging affidavit before the arrest was made, correct?
I guess so, yes, sir.
And even though you knew that they were not cohabitants at the time before his arrest, you still helped Mr. then Deputy Deane facilitate the arrest, is that right?
I helped them with facilitating arrest, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, do you see anything wrong with active domestic violence allegedly occurring on December 11th and taking the suspect into custody 3 days later?
No.
Okay. Is that something you've done before yourself, not in those exact circumstances, not in that exact timeline, but have an allegation of domestic violence come to you, and then you find a suspect some days later and make their arrest?
I've done that, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, okay. Now, there's been some testimony before you walked into the room about whether or not Mr. DeHutt told you they were Facebook friends, and whether or not you knew that he sometimes called her wifey or she sometimes called him hubby. Do you remember that coming up during the IA?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever ask Mr. Deane any questions about the, I know you said you asked Mr. Deane some questions about his nature of his relationship, and I think they were, are you having a sexual relationship with her? Are you dating her? Are you trying to date her? Are you trying to have a sexual relationship with her? Those types of questions.
In a sense, yes, sir.
Okay. You remember asking any other questions of him?
No,
Did you feel that Mr. Deane was trying to hide anything?
no, not from our conversation.
Okay. Would it make more sense to you, sir, if he wanted to keep his relationship with Kelly Capps out of sight, that he would never come to you at all to discuss the matter?
Probably, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, that's all the questions I have. I'm sure Ms. Jones might have some. Thank you.
I just have a couple follow-up questions.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to address this issue of you ordering, is it your testimony that you ordered Travis Deane to violate the policy about what to do with that gentleman's property?
Well, I
Or
told
did he ask you if that's how it should be done? How did that go down?
the guy was being rude and uncooperative, and we just tried to inconvenience him. I didn't know that there was a policy on that. So that's ignorance on my part. I would never told him, I would never violate a policy myself, nor would I tell somebody else to intentionally violate it.
So is it your position you gave him an order to violate the policy?
Well, I said we should send this stuff out to evidence.
So you suggested that he should send it out to evidence?
Yeah, but basically, I said, let's do it, so.
Okay. So you didn't say, I'm ordering you to put this stuff in evidence instead of sending it out to the jail like we're supposed to, did you?
No, I never said those words.
Okay. And you ended up getting a reprimand too, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
And just because you're telling us here you didn't know the policy, as a deputy sheriff, wasn't he required to know the policy as well?
I guess so, yes, ma'am.
All right. I want to ask you about this issue of what you were told by Deputy Deane about the relationship. You were not told, as Mr. Glitch pointed out, you weren't told that they called each other terms of endearment. He actually calls her darling in one of the texts. You weren't told that, were you?
No, ma'am.
And you weren't told that she had been to his house.
No, ma'am.
And you weren't told that she had called him, texted with him frequently.
No, ma'am.
Was it your understanding that they were friends in terms of when he went in the restaurant to eat, they talked to one another?
That's what I gathered.
And isn't it true that when you were told all these other things, in your internal affairs interview, you said, had you known all that, you would have made a different decision about whether he should handle that call?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that because there is a policy directive that says that, it's under 26.2.50, that deputies should avoid appearances of impropriety or getting involved in personal issues?
Yes, ma'am.
So had he told you the
I'm going
whole...
to object to that hearsay nature, because we still haven't seen the policies alleged to have violated there.
There is a policy that says that, isn't there,
Yes, ma'am.
Sergeant? Okay.
Same objection, ma'am.
So,
I'll note the objection has been ruled on, but
I rule in favor of the county.
so had you known about the true extent of his relationship, you would have said what? Somebody else should handle this call?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, with regards to whether or not, why